Hello everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. We've reached another Friday, so of course I have another Film Rec Friday ready for everybody out there. November is not only Noirvember, but it's also Native American Heritage Month, and I have a really fantastic film to recommend to everybody out there. But before I jump into that, I did want to take just a little bit of time to talk about our streaming video service, Kanopy. It is fantastic, and it's one of the two video services we offer that I get so many of our recommendations from. It's got a little bit of something for everyone, so just sit back, give me a couple of minutes, and we were going to dive into everything that Kanopy can offer to you. Okay, so as mentioned, Kanopy is one of our two video streaming services, and if I'm honest, it's my favorite of the two. I really, really love the collection that it offers. It has a little bit of something for everyone. You know, let's say you are really into classic films like Breakfast at Tiffany's, Murder on the Orient Express. There are genre selections for you there. If you are a big indie art house film fan, so many options there. You've got entire catalogs from big indie studios like A24. A24 brought like Moonlight, which did in fact win the Oscar the one year. It has Lady Bird, which stars Saoirse Ronan and was one that got a ton of critical buzz. You have films from really small, super low budget studios to categories that include Warner Brothers Pictures, blockbusters. There are films from every genre, whether you like horror, comedy, drama, history. If you are a big documentary film fan, it's absolute heaven. There are so many incredible documentaries on here. You've got some that are titles that anyone who follows film would know, things that were up for big awards like the Oscars or the Golden Globes, but then you have titles that are super niche. And when I say niche, I mean like super niche. They're documentaries about chicken shows. You know how there are dog shows and cat shows? There are some also about chickens. There's a documentary for that. There are documentaries about tabletop gaming. You, of course, have documentaries that are about wildlife and themes that are probably more mainstream that you would find on places like PBS and whatnot. But I love that it really does include topics that are far more marginalized. And they've got topics that cover current events, and they're really, really good about updating things like that. So during, say like the election, there will be a ton of different documentaries available that are about past elections, current events, and topics that relate to that. And their featured collections are really, really well curated. They rotate through different themes. So every time Halloween rolls around, it's not the exact same scary movies that they're recommending. It definitely will delve into other options that maybe you haven't heard about or that are brand new. And they do get titles that are pretty new. It's not like, say with Hoopla, for example. Hoopla very rarely will get really fresh titles. Kanopy is not the same. You do have that back catalog of classic films or films that have been out for a while, but then you get some that were only recently released in theaters, and that's really exciting because all of this is available to you entirely for free. Now, if you have little ones, Kanopy also offers Unlimited Kids, which is just at a click of a button, it will change the user interface to one that just features titles that are of interest and say at our ratings for kid-friendly audiences. They have a wide range of PBS titles, including classics like Reading Rainbow. Right now, the featured season is Reading Rainbow Season 4. These are that's a show that came out when I was a child, so pretty much 40 years ago. And it's still relevant. It's still exciting to watch. You have full-length feature films for kids. You have shorts, some of which I've never seen, but that I thought were amazing because I've run little tiny mini film fests, and some of them are just so amazing. You've got live action, you've got animation. You have some of the read-alongs with big title books, but then also some smaller titles that maybe kids haven't heard of before, but that are just as worthy of attention. Now, the Kids Unlimited section, as you can imagine, promotes unlimited views. You don't have to worry about checkout numbers. It's just whatever you want to watch on there, however many times your kids want to watch. And let's be real, kids love watching things over and over and over again. You have free choice to do so. Now, within the regular section, every single month, if you have a Milan-Berlin library card, you get 15 Kanopy tickets. Now, every movie, TV series, documentary will say on their checkout page how many tickets they take, and that kind of depends on how many episodes it is, how long it takes to watch. Your average length movie from around 90 minutes to 2 hours or a little bit over 2 hours will take anywhere from, say, 3 to 5 tickets. Obviously 5 tickets are for the really long movies or for full-length seasons of TV series, but it will always tell you how many tickets and for how long you've got the checkout on that direct checkout page. So you're always able to stay informed about that. The user interface also always tells you how many tickets you have left. And then it's a rolling checkout system. So at the end of every month, if you still have tickets in your bank, you lose them and it goes back to 15 tickets on that first of the next month. So I always encourage people to really find things that might be of interest to them at the end of the month if they have tickets left over, so that they don't just waste their tickets if they do want to be able to use them. But yeah, I absolutely love Kanopy. I use it pretty much all the time. I am slowly making my way through some really incredible featured curated collections that have to do with documentaries, and I'm having a great time with that. But I also was just watching, it was just October, obviously last month, and I was just going through some of the new selections that they had in their horror movie feature, and they were amazing. A lot of them were really, really cool, and I'd never heard of them before. So it's one of those services that I've found surprising in how much enjoyment I've gotten out of it, because it does have titles I'm familiar with, but then a ton of titles that I've never heard of before, including today's recommendation. So just to wind down from all of the information I have for Kanopy, just check it out. It is entirely for free. With that Milan-Berlin library card, you're going to get 15 tickets. And with the holidays coming up and with kids being off of school, at the very least, make sure you're checking out that Kids Unlimited section, because it really is wonderful to be able to offer kids quality programming that you don't have to worry about cost and that they can watch over and over. And you know that you're going to get some really, really high quality content at the same time. Okay, so my one recommendation for today is a film that I had never heard about before today. And I'm really, really sad that I didn't, because it is such a good movie. No surprise, it is from our Kanopy service, and that is 1961's The Exiles. I was going through Kanopy's featured selections for Native American Heritage Month, and I've seen a lot of them at this point. The really big classic films that have been around for years and years, that have made it through different award ceremonies. But The Exiles is one that I think they just must have added to their collection. It's from a filmmaker named Kent Mackenzie, and it really walks the line between documentary and traditional film. I mean, it 100% feels like a traditional dramatic film. I actually had to double check that this in fact was a documentary, because it doesn't have that vibe that you get where they're telling you a story or they're informing you of something. It just felt very natural, and I loved the individuals I was seeing on screen, the characters, more so than I would normally feel about people within a documentary setting. Now, this film is very much a slice of life. There's not some big overarching plot. Nobody is making big changes. There are no big explosions. It's not anything like that. But I am a huge fan of slice of life drama where you are just getting this snapshot out of a person's day, essentially. And 100% that's what you get with The Exiles. We follow this group of young 20 somethings who have left the reservation and have traveled to Bunker Hill in San Francisco. Now, Bunker Hill in the 60s was a very different place than it is today. So if you happen to be a history buff, if you are interested, especially within like Western American history, California, it's fascinating to just get this viewpoint into what day-to-day life really looked like. Because, you know, in a period piece, everything is very structured, right? Everyone has made specific decisions about the clothes that are supposed to be shown, about the way storefronts are supposed to look. But this is just 1960s Bunker Hill. And again, it doesn't feel like a documentary at the same time. It is very much unlike a lot of films I've ever seen. I was kind of surprised by how much I was engaged by this, simply because it was so very different. And these kids that we're being introduced to, they are so comfortable on camera. There's none of that sort of presentation or that boisterous kind of attitude that you can sometimes get when people know that they're being filmed when they don't have film experience. There's none of that. It's just who they are and throughout the day. And there's something really dramatically touching about that. I mean, you really are getting a slice of life for what these kids were living. I mean, like this is their day, and you grow attached to some of them. You really do want to continue to follow them. You want to see and know what has happened to them. And this is the 60s, right? So they've lived an entire life. And I found myself coming back to that idea after I'd watched what happened to Yvonne, what happened to Homer or Tommy. And even after looking and researching, there's not a lot of information. So you are kind of left with this open-ended what if, or a series of question marks at the end of a sentence rather than a definitive ending. And I just thought it was kind of magic. It was very much not what I was expecting at all. I'd read some critical papers about this movie because, again, it's from the 60s, but it's only really started to get recognized in later years. It got a good amount of like small film festival showings during the 60s, but it was kind of a lost movie, I guess. And so only in the last couple of decades have people really been talking about this is a masterwork. This is something that's really important and that people should be watching. And I 100% agree. For filmmaking, for looking at a particular group of people, for just looking at a time period, this is exceptional. And I hope that this few minutes of me talking about this movie urges you and convinces you to at least check it out, to read about the Exiles, because it is so very different from, your standard documentary. Or, I mean, it's not really, I wouldn't describe it as coming of age simply because we get such a short period of time with them, but it is that feeling at the same time. So please, check out The Exiles. It is available on Kanopy. It is a wonderful, wonderful film, and will definitely leave you with the feels, I believe. Okay, so this week was a little bit different from the norm. I only did have the one recommendation for you, but I did really want to talk a little bit about Kanopy and why I think so many people would enjoy the service. If you have any recommendations for any title that you found on Kanopy that you want to recommend to people and that you think they should check out Kanopy for. If you have any recommendations for other titles that feature casts, writing groups, what have you, of Native American individuals, please, please, please recommend those. Definitely am interested in checking more of that out. As always, thank you so, so much for joining me. This was a really, really amazing week for me. Like I said, the film The Exiles was just such an incredible movie to get to watch. So again, thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully I will see you next time. Bye bye.